Well, my friends, welcome to the Artist Next Level podcast. I am super happy and excited to be here with you. In this episode, we're going to talk about all things shipping. That's one of the biggest mysteries artists have to deal with on a regular basis. And with me to help us with that, we have Myztico Campo, a friend of mine. He's an artist and also senior logistic consultant for InXpress. He specializes in all things shipping for artists, galleries. He is our agent for shipping all works for 33 Contemporary Gallery and my work too. So we're going to have a great conversation. And the wonderful thing is that he's an artist. So he understands kind of how this whole thing works and how as artists, we always have to deal with that. So it's going to be a great episode. Don't go anywhere. I'm sure you're going to learn a lot of new things today.
Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Well, Myztico, good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great, breathing deeply and creating and helping galleries and artists resolve their shipping issues.
I know, right?
And how are you, Sergio?
I am doing good. Happy to have you here. We talk quite often through email or through texting, on shipping situations and questions, and you help us a lot with that. And the first time we actually meet here face to face, and one of the things that really attracted me to your company InXpress and what you do is that you are an artist yourself, so you understand, what it is like to deal with shipping. One of the biggest nightmares for artists. Anytime that you put something out for shipping, like you cross your fingers and you do a dance, like hopefully it makes it all the way to the other side. So
of course,
I'm sure there will be some great tips that we can share with our friends. But before we talk about that part of your life, let's talk about also another fun and amazing part from your life, which is your creative side, your artistic endeavors. So tell me a little bit about your growing up and how did you decide to become an artist?
Thank you. Well, at the age of 5, my dad used to do caricatures, and I got really fascinated with the way lines came together to create images. Mm-hmm. And that really set the spark for my creative journey. So I began with drawing a lot. My parents always encouraged me to explore my creativity. Now we start dabbling with crayons and in watercolors and in paints. And then also music came into the picture too.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm also a musician, filmmaker as well. So creativity for me became like a sacred daily practice. So I give thanks to Great Spirit every day for this gift of creativity, because for me, it became really a way to nurture spirit and not worry about, okay, who am I competing against? Am I as good as this artist or that artist? I never fell into that because I wanted to just be a vessel for creative source to flow through and express it as purely as I could. Mm-hmm. So as I got older, I grew up in Times Square in Hell's Kitchen, New York City. And okay. My parents still lived there. And so I was surrounded by the theater world and galleries. And so I became an actor for about 5 years, and I toured with an improvisational theater group called Family Life Theater around Canada and the States. And so I was exposed to a lot of art at a very young age, film, stuff like that. And so the arts have always been part of my life journey, and I'm so grateful to my parents and others that have come into my life to encourage me to express creatively. And and every day I'm either painting or working on music or film editing.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I love that. And so what is the the medium and painting that you work with? Is it digital? Is it acrylic, oil? What is your favorite medium to work with?
Well, for example, the background that you see here, that this is a digital light pen painting. Okay. But then I work with acrylics, and mostly acrylics, and then also I paint murals. I just finished a large mural here in Ithaca, New York, as well. A 16-foot long by 9-foot high mural.
That's pretty big.
And then I also do a lot of blacklight body painting. Mm-hmm. And so I've been body painting in South America, at Burning Man in Europe.
Oh, that's cool.
At all sorts of different festivals. I do live painting. Mm-hmm. People book me and my partner to body paint them. So I body paint people from all over the world. And then we do this really beautiful photography of them, because a lot of people have body issues. Uh-huh. And when they see themselves like body painted, it creates like this beautiful recognition that they are art as well. Mm-hmm. So the idea that every body is a canvas of art, and you could express yourself in a way that honors the best version of yourselves. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of therapeutic, and art is very healing. I mean, I consider myself a artist.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, what's the middle word of earth? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You ever thought about
art?
Right?
Art.
Yeah, the middle word of earth is art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so art comes from the heart, and we were all born with that as children. But then a lot of children get suppressed by the schooling system. Oh, you can't be an artist because you're going to fail, or you're not going to make a living as an artist. And how many artists have been suppressed because of that? Idea, like you're not going to make it as an artist or whatever. And so art is important. It's important because it shares the truth in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And nowadays we need more truth than ever to truly express ourselves in truth, and art has that power.
Absolutely. And it also creates a wonderful community, as you travel and as you meet other artists and as you engage with others, your network of people that you connect that have, we could all be of all different walks of life, doing different things, different types of art, but at the end of the day, we all share that kind of creative spirit, that you mentioned at the beginning, in which we can create, or vision or thoughts or ideas or experiences through the work that we create, and by doing so, engage with the world, and that is pretty awesome. Yeah, and I wanted to ask you too. So then, as you are engaging with art and doing this thing, tell me about how did you also then started working with shipping and being this is also an expertise.
Sure, it came by accident.
Really?
Yeah, I was living in England several years ago, and staying with some family there, and they got intrigued by opening up an InXpress franchise in England. Okay. And so I was hired to work with them, and I started setting up a whole roster of clients. At first, it was just general businesses that sold products. But then as I got into it, I thought, wow, I was talking to different artists and the challenges that they were facing in shipping, especially on the international side. Mm-hmm. And so I said, well, that's an area that I could help them, because I have the insights as a fellow artist to help in whatever way I can. And not only help, but also to get really good rates for them, as opposed to going to an online site. And so I started growing that business in England. And then when I came back home to New York, I worked for InXpress in New York. So InXpress has 400 offices internationally, and we have 66 here in the States alone. So they partner with all of the major brand carriers. And about 70 other licensed carriers. And so we negotiate the best rates we can for our clients.
Yeah. No, I love it, and that's such a wonderful service. I was thinking, like, how did I get in touch with you? And I think it was through an email that came through my gallery email,
Right.
About your services. And by then I was working with a different company, and then you had, like, some really really good points about working with galleries and so on. So I said, well, let me give it a try, and that's when we started working. And when you told me you were an artist, so like, okay, well, this is it.
How was your experience working with the other, with the people before that?
It was good. It was good too. But there's something about when the person on the other side of the phone or the email understands the art world and understands the gallery world and the artist, that it just gives you a better peace of mind, right? That I know the person who I am talking to understand about shipping art, which is not always something that everybody's used to,
Sure.
For how we package the art, how it needs to be handled, and so on. And your company has really helped me with shipping, from smaller little things to quite large ones. We went through your company to ship our booth from Chicago to Miami for the latest art fair that we did down there too.
Right.
I just said, I don't know how you guys do it, but you gave me the best rates ever. And I tried, other companies, and your guys always come out with the best rates. So, and I think that's one of the wonderful things, because that's one of the biggest things for an artist, is to know that sometimes the shipping could be even more expensive than the art itself. So,
right.
Even for a client, who's considering buying an artist's work and looks at the shipping, like, well, I don't know, that's too much money. So, having the ability for an artist to say, hey, can you help me and try to find me the best rate?
Sure.
Amazing. And what I like is that you guys are not a shipping company, but you are an intermediary in which you help us find the best rates with existing companies of FedEx, UPS, DHL, and etc.
Right.
And that is, I think that is one of the big pluses, right, for this. Go ahead.
You consider what we do almost like a concierge type of service, where, you're just not just another number, or, you have long wait times on phone calls when something goes wrong and, you need assistance. So for me, I treat all my clients as I want to be treated, and I'm on the side of the clients, and so I do the best I can to compassionately help artists and galleries not only get the best rates, because sometimes, if you go for like the lowest rate, sometimes it doesn't mean that just because you get the cheap rate that you get the best service.
The best service, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I've had incidents where I have art clients where they say, "Oh, I got a cheaper rate elsewhere. I'm going to go with them," only to find out like a week later that either the item arrived damaged or arrived late and it didn't get there on time. And so they have no one to turn to within that organization because they don't care. I mean,
exactly.
And so I, try to find a balance between getting the best rate possible and also compassionately serving the art community.
So, no, I love that. So let's talk about some of the kind of maybe some tips that we can give artists when it comes to shipping. And what would you say are some things to consider, when you are shipping art?
Well, the packaging is very important. So let's say a lot of artists ship in boxes. So it's always recommended to, when you do ship in boxes and the art piece, for example, has a value of over $1,000 or and above, to always reinforce the edges of the package. Reinforce them, seriously bubble wrap the piece. I always mention to take photos of the packaging, because if the artist takes out insurance, we provide up to $500,000 worth of insurance on all of our shipments, which we provide quotes for. but let's say if the item is not packaged well, it could void the insurance. So it's important to take pictures. Okay, look, this is the way I packaged it. It's reinforced, and unless if someone pushes through with a forklift or something, then it should arrive safely. No carrier is perfect.
Exactly.
We work with all the carriers, and I would say 99.9% of our shipments get to its destination without issues. But there is that slight percentage where it's someone's careless or something along the trip knocks over something in a truck, and if it's not properly protected, then unfortunately damages happen. So it's always really important to package your item carefully and take photos of the packaging and pictures of whatever it is that you're shipping as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because a lot of times we don't think about documenting the shipping itself. So we ship it and it goes, but you don't have, like you said, those photographs that shows the way you packed it.
Right.
And in my experience, curating exhibitions here in Chicago for a large art center and receiving like hundreds of packages over the years, usually when something gets damaged, it's a corner. Like you said, protecting those edges, putting the extra bubble on the corners. That's
right.
That's when a box drops. Well, that corner of the artwork is what's going to get kinked, or is what's going to get damaged first than anything else. And
right.
One of the things that now are available, which even 5 years ago I didn't see much of it, and which now artists are using a lot, are those art shipping boxes.
Yeah.
That come with the foam and then the reinforced cardboard. Those seem to work pretty well. They're a little bit pricey, but they do seem to protect the art quite a bit.
Those are good. I have several galleries that use those. Do you actually get those back once they've been used, or?
No, in this case, we included in the shipping price. At least ourselves, we included in the shipping price. And so, because a lot of the artwork that we sell is not going to come back to us. So it's
right.
not artwork going for an exhibition, but it's artwork going to a buyer. So, the buyer will dispose it at some point.
So the receiver or the buyer could reuse them if they needed to.
Exactly, for moving or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're expensive, but they protect the artwork quite well.
Right. Yeah. One thing that we don't offer, that InXpress doesn't offer, is we don't do any packing. We don't crate or nothing like that. I do work with some crating companies that I've had good results with, that I could recommend if needed. But we don't do the packaging.
Yeah. And that anyway should be part of the responsibility of the artist, either do it themselves or hire somebody who can do, particularly if it's a crate. And there are, depends on sizes, where then, the actual wood crate will be recommended, correct?
Exactly. I just did a large shipment for one of my clients that shipped an item to a Saudi prince in Dubai, and it was a huge infinity mirror sculpture, and so we send those huge items crated on special freight lines, and in this particular case, the Saudi prince could only receive shipments via DHL.
Oh wow! Okay,
they were the only ones that they trusted to deliver this. And we are InXpress is like DHL's 5th largest international shipping partner.
Okay,
so we spend millions of dollars with them, and that's what allows us to get better rates for our clients, because we buy in bulk.
Wow, and going to the prince, that must be quite of a shipment.
Well, it was, because it was kind of secretive. It was to a palace in Riyadh, and
oh wow!
But it got there in perfect timing. Everything was fine, and my client artist was very happy.
Yeah, that's good. And I always tell our collectors too that the faster it arrives, the better, right? The less opportunities for something bad to happen to that bag. So
you want it, to go from point A to point B without as many transfers as possible. I mean, we do offer like a white glove delivery service, and where it gets delivered indoors, that we offer, and then the carrier does not set, doesn't hang or doesn't set things up. It just removes the art from the crate, and then they take away the trash from there as well.
Got it. So you can also then work with the typical DHL, UPS, FedEx, and so on, but also with art handlers.
With art handlers, yeah, we work with like 70 plus different carriers in the U.S. and across the international spectrum. So basically, if you need something that's specialized, that the client will let me know in advance and say, this is what we need, this is what date we need to get it there by, especially on the international side, where customs is a whole world unto themselves.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure I'm glad you touched on customs, because that's one of the sometimes biggest hurdles when you are shipping something, filling out those customs forms. But what I love about what you do is that you guys take care of that. You create the shipping invoice.
Right.
You just attach it. You send it to us by email. Like, here it is. Just attach it in the box. Good to go. Just double check the information and ready to roll. So that, ensures also the artist who's sending the artwork that all the boxes have been checked correctly, because you
exactly. Yeah, it's always good to just to read over the document, just to make sure everything's correct. And another area that I think would be helpful for artist galleries is to provide the correct measurements and weight of what they're shipping, because a lot of times most galleries artists don't have scales, or they're just saying, oh, we estimate it to be a certain dimension and weight.
A guesstimate.
A guesstimate, and then when we get the invoice from the carrier, that's that we have to pay the carrier. So, oh, by the way, these measurements and weight was incorrect. And then, when the artist or gallery receives the invoice and say, oh, and it's like $100, $150 more than what we were quoted, but then you gave us the wrong measurements.
Yes.
So it's very crucial for the artist or gallery to, make sure that they have correct measurements and as best as possible. So I do add a disclaimer when we send a quote out, that this is based on the information you provided us. And so if it changes from this, at least we have an email thread showing, well, this is the information you gave us.
Exactly.
We based the quote on that.
Yes, exactly. And it's always a good idea to actually measure the box at the end, not just go by what is listed. Sometimes when you buy a box, there may be an actual, discrepancy between the box as is listed and when you actually fill the box with art and you're closing it, and now it's a little bit expanded, so you might actually have a little bit bigger shipment than what you saw on the website,
exactly
in the box. So that's those are little things that you learn along the way. Right,
of course. And also because we get lower rates than the actual public gets, what some of the artist galleries do is that they add like a 20% markup to the buyer, just in case if things are incorrect, or so that's up to the discretion of the shipper, because once again, even if you were to add 10-20% on top of what we quote you, at least you're covered if anything goes wrong, and you're still saving the buyer money instead of going to just a public shipping service, if you will.
Right. No, I totally agree. And particularly, I think for the most artists, the most hard to figure out is because you can always measure it exactly, but it's the weight. Sometimes, you're using a scale at home may not be as accurate, as for what you are trying to ship. And so, I think that's a good point, adding a little bit extra percentage on top to cover yourself. Yeah. Now, one of the biggest also mysteries for artists when it comes to shipping is on the subject of insurance. Should you buy insurance, should not buy insurance? Does the actual company will actually pay back if something happens? I mean, I have read like stories of, something got broken and the company did not want to pay for it. What's the advice on when it comes to insuring shipping?
That's a good question. So a lot of galleries have their own insurance, but for those artists and galleries that don't have their own insurance, typically the carrier would insure like a small amount, up to $500 roughly. But when you're shipping items that are $500 plus, we offer you an insurance quote. And also, let's say we would send you a deductible type of form that shows, okay, if something does get damaged, this is the deductible on this insurance. So this way, you know that at least either 95% of it is going to be covered if something does happen. Sometimes something does get damaged along the way. In most cases, it's repairable. And then something like that rises, a claim is made. And then if it's repairable, the shipper would say, okay, this is what it's going to cost us to repair this. And then the insurance would cover the repair. Mm-hmm. In a case where it's not repairable, then I would say about 95% of the value of that shipment is usually covered within the deductible framework of that insurance that the carrier provides. So that's why it's important, once again, to be mindful of the packaging and to photograph what it is that you have. So this way you have it on record. Mm-hmm. And because, you don't want to ship like an expensive art piece in a flimsy box that's going to, be traveling with a bunch of other items and, bumps along the road or air flights or whatever could damage that. So if an insurance claim does come up, you have proof saying, hey, this is how well this is packaged. This is solid. And then you're covered at least. There's a sense of peace of mind there.
Exactly. No, that's a great advice. Thank you for sharing that. Sure. And the other day I heard of a gallery who's shipping artwork internationally with just, say that they have the artwork, they just put a couple sheets of cardboard in the front and then they just wrap them around with bubble wrap. And that's it. Not even a box around it.
Oh, that's not good.
I was like, oh my God, that is not good. Yes, they're trying to get low shipping costs, but at the price of what, right? Something could happen.
It's not worth it. Because I have artists that reach out to me asking if we offer blanket services. So blanket service is exactly what it is that you're saying. They just want to bubble wrap it, have a van pick it up, and that's that. And although we have, let's say, dedicated vans that we can offer, but it gets pretty expensive when you have a dedicated van. So let's say I have a gallery in New York that wants to ship to a collector in California, and they don't want to traveling with anything else. They just want a dedicated van. That could add several $1,000s to that shipment. And as you know, like over the last few years, I mean, shipping costs have been rising along with everything else.
Great.
So it's really about, number one, trusting your intuition. Number two, of course you want good rates, but at the same time, you want it to get there safely.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, I'll only get the cheapest rate, but it could get damaged along the way just because of that supposed savings. It'll create more headaches later on if it's not done correctly.
Along the way, yeah, you're totally right. And one of the things that we have seen, particularly after the pandemic, was the rise of shipping prices. Is that due to maybe less number of flights or more expensive
during the so-called pandemic, there was very limited space, both on land, ocean, and air. Okay. So the industry, took a big hit because the rates went so high because of limited space.
Yeah.
Now that's eased a bit, and hopefully it'll continue that way. because it hurts people's bottom line, and it shouldn't be that way, because it's all shipping industry in the modern times is essential for any business that's shipping products or importing products. And as the supply chain line gets destroyed or gets decimated for whatever reason, then that hurts everybody.
Right. Yeah. No, totally. And as more artists go into also independently selling their work outside of the gallery system, this is something that we all need to learn: how to pack our work, how to properly get it out to our customers and to our collectors, because the gallery is not going to be doing that when you're working on your own, when you're selling directly from your website or from your social media. So this is, I think, a very or has been a very useful topic to cover, which I had never talked about here in the podcast. And thank you, Myztico, for giving us some insights on the shipping questions that as artists we usually have, and the worries that we have about this. When it comes to timing, for an artist who's planning to ship something to a collector who wants their work, or to a gallery or museum or whatnot for a particular exhibition, how long it will take for an artist who's planning to do this, to get, if they want to work with you, to get a quote and get figured out how the shipping works?
If it's a time delivery, it's always important for the shipper to advise us, okay, this item has to be there by X date.
Okay.
So this way we could advise them, okay, if it needs to be there by next date, then if it's domestic, we have like an ETA of what it would be domestically. If it's international, you have to take in mind customs. Sometimes it goes pretty fast in some countries. Other countries that could be backlogged, and customs internationally is kind of notorious for creating holdups or whatever, and that's something that we really have no control over. Like whenever a customs issue does happen, I get on the phone with our dispatchers and upper management to see how we could expedite the customs clearance. A lot of times internationally, that's something that artists or galleries must be aware of, is that the receiver is liable for the customs duties charges. And it's important for them to be aware that some galleries, artists opt for the that they would cover the customs duties, which we invoice the customer once that comes through. But it's important for the artist, the gallery, to once again let the buyer be aware. Okay, you're going to be liable for these VATs or duties. It's important that the receiver checks in with their local what the custom fees are for certain art. Some countries the fees are higher, and they're kind of like, they kind of shift. The rates shift. So when they come to me and say, "Oh, how much are the customs fees will be?" The only thing we could do is give you like an estimate with those fees, but once again, they fluctuate. So it's important for the receiver to dig into that, just so they don't get surprised. And I've had receivers, where shipments are sent internationally, that once it gets there and they see how much the customs duties are, that they refuse the parcel. Because they don't want to pay for the customs duties. So what happens then is that either the shipper decides, okay, we'll pay the customs duties, or the item gets returned back to the shipper, and then they have to pay for that shipment coming back into the country.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, it's challenging in that sense. Another area for international that could help galleries, artists, is, let's say an artist is shipping an item for a gallery show in Europe. for example, or anywhere else internationally. What happens if that item does not sell? I mean, we all hope as artists that, yeah, all right, it'll sell.
Right.
What happens if it doesn't sell and that item has to be returned back to the States or whatever country? The return shipment, the shipper would still have to pay for the return of that. Okay. So the thing is that keep in mind that if you're shipping an item for an art exhibit, anywhere internationally, there's an item that's called a carnet, CARNET. Have you heard of it?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So a carnet basically offers the shipper a 1-year pass to ship items to art shows under the pretense that it's not there. It's not there to sell, but it's for exhibition purposes.
We use that for museum shows, for example.
For museum shows, yeah. So once that item is returned, the shipper is not liable for customs duties, nor the receiver wherever it's sent, because it's under carnet, and that's valuable for some people because, once again, there's a lot of scams. Where artists get scammed, say, "Oh, well, we love your art. We want to exhibit it here at this place. It's going to cost you this amount to exhibit it, and then besides that, you have to pay the shipping fee, and you have to pay customs duties for this art piece. And if it doesn't sell, then we have to return it to you. And if you don't get it taken out of our space, we're going to charge you storage fees. And these things start mounting up.
Yeah.
So it's important for artists to be aware of these scams, because I get them a lot, and I'm sure other artists also. Hey, we love your art. We want to show it at this beautiful, exhibit, and it winds up being a fraud. And it's terrible when that happens. So a carnet for a temporary import is something worthwhile looking into if you do a lot of that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I had, before I started working with you many years ago, probably maybe about 8 years ago, I had to send 2 big exhibitions to Italy, and they were museum shows. And yeah, we had to go through the whole process of getting the carnet. So everything was shipped to the museum. And then after the show, everything went back. And one of them, it was a huge show, had like over 50 pieces. We ended up sending it through ship. And it took like a month to get there. So we took, we worked like almost like month and a half in advance. We sent it out to make sure it arrived on time. And everything worked out perfect. There was no problems, but it was kind of scary.
Of course. Especially by ocean. I mean,
yeah.
There was, we had an incident a few years ago where a client shipped something by ocean, some sculpture, and unfortunately the ship got into an accident and it flooded. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
All of the containers fell overboard. I mean, they were insured.
Yeah.
But still, I mean,
yeah,
these are chances we take,
And that's like you said, 99.9% everything will arrive fine, but there's always that one,
Yeah.
And it doesn't. When it's your turn, like sometimes ask me like, well, is it safe to ship? Like, well, you always take a chance. Is it safe to drive? Well, yeah, but when there's an accident, there's an accident. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and it's sad because I've had some clients over the years where everything went, like over the years that they've been shipping with us, everything always got there in time. Everything got there safely. But all you need is that one little accident.
Yeah.
They say, "Oh, we're never going to use you again." Although 99 of the other shipments went through okay, and that one shipment didn't got damaged or whatever. And that's sad when that happens, And I really have no control over that. We try to source the carriers that have like the least complaints about such damages, and that's something that we look for as well. To make sure that, we're just not giving you just a better rate, but also that the carriers are trustworthy.
Right. Well, I mean, when you think about it, a box to travel, let's say from Chicago to Barcelona, it has to go through tons of belts, carriers, hands, scanners, the journey that box will have to get from destination. I mean, from point A to point B to destination. It's incredible, the systems that exist today in the world of shipping. And of course, one of those times something may happen and that box gets stuck or defaults or, faults of the truck or the guy didn't pick it up right. And, it's just human error, or sometimes a machine got stuck or something, and it can happen. It can happen to anybody. So we hope that not your package or mine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had this other client that shipped like a $20,000 painting from New York to New York, and when he got to JFK, this shipment wasn't done through us, so through InXpress. He used his direct FedEx account, and so when he got to JFK, it was supposed to be delivered to Connecticut, and then several days passed, and he's trying to figure out where's this painting. I was supposed to get it a few days ago, and apparently it got stolen.
Oh wow!
At JFK, and he like reached out to me to see if I could help somehow, but it wasn't shipped for us. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I could really I could only recommend to him is like saying, hey, is there any surveillance camera footage? Because sometimes, you have some people that are on the inside that are, that sees, hey, this shipment has value of $20,000 or whatever. And they steal it. And it's unfortunate that it's, that there are people like that.
Exactly.
But he did wind up getting a surveillance camera and saw the person that stole it. And,
wow.
And he was able to retrieve it.
Wow, incredible.
That person got arrested and, fired.
Wow.
But, I'm sure you've heard horror stories like, like TSA people stealing stuff. Even when you're just traveling without her,
right.
Just stealing stuff from the luggage, and so there's those unfortunate aspects.
Exactly. Well, Myztico, thank you so much for giving us all these insights. This wealth of knowledge that you have working on this side of the art market too, that is part of this big ecosystem in the art world, how art travels from one place to the other. Thank you for giving us those points. And, we're going to share your information. So any artists who may want to work with you or get a quote from you and so on, open an account with your company, they can do that too. And what I love about you guys too is that you can also work not only for artists in the United States, but also who are outside of the United States, shipping internationally, like coming to the United States too, right? So
yes, and also we don't, to set up an account with us, there's no setup fees, there's no monthly minimums. So basically, InXpress invoices our clients only like after the shipment has been delivered. As long as, once again, just make sure that you provide the exact measurements and weight as best as possible.
Yes.
And I'm here to serve to the best of my capacity and help other artists and galleries. So
excellent.
Get their shipments done.
Well, it's time to share with our friends. I'm sure that there's a lot of artists already waiting with pen and paper. Like, come on, Sergio, give us a contact information. What is it? So please tell us, how can our friends get a hold of you and your company and for their old shipping needs? So I'm sure you're going to get quite a bit of phone calls.
Thank you. Well, I could be reached at Luis, Luis.campo, CAMPO, at InXpress, so that's InXpress.com. So there's no E before the X. So feel free to reach out to me. Let me know that, you heard about this on the Artist Next Level podcast. And we're happy to help out whenever we can.
Exactly. Or if you're at a gallery, listen to this, if you're a gallery owner or director or curator, a lot of, curators sometimes in our field of work, artists ask us, what is the best way, to send the artwork? What company should I use? Here now you have Myztico who can help us out with all these logistics, traveling, sending artwork from place to place. So for exhibitions, for collectors, for art fairs, and so on. You guys have been really good to our company, to our gallery, to myself as an artist. So we look forward to continue working with you. And what I'm going to do, if you had a hard chance, or maybe you're driving as you're listening to this podcast, could not write the information, I'm going to put the contact email in the description of this podcast. So make sure you check that out. At the bottom, I will include that so there's no mistakes when you send that email. Like, I sent that email, he never replied. Well, you probably misspelled it, right? So now I'm gonna, you can just copy and paste it. And
keep in mind too that I usually reply within 10 to 15 minutes of receiving emails. So I know sometimes email issues happen where, like what happened with us at me, where I wasn't getting your emails. So. I'm happy to give you my phone number as well. If people want to reach out and just text me, hey, did you get my email?
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. And I also want to say, hey, Sergio, I love your art as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
Just checking out some of your work. It's really beautiful.
Thank you so much, Myztico. Thank you for that note as well.
Of course.
And yes, it's so good to have somebody who you can text and say, hey, did you get my quote? I haven't heard back. Because I was playing with my email and I didn't know, he was not getting my emails. But you cannot do that when you are shipping directly through the big companies, UPS, FedEx, DHL.
Right.
There's nobody to call, there's nobody to text. And if you get into their phone lines, you have to wait a long time before you can actually talk to somebody.
Yeah, so I'm okay with you sharing my cell number as well.
Okay, we'll post it also in the description of this podcast. And my friends, do us a big favor, because you also have a network of other artists or other gallery owners or other curators also that you can share this episode with. So do us a big favor, click on that little share button and share it with a friend. If you know somebody who's shipping artwork like right now, it's like, hey, before you ship it, you gotta listen to this podcast because it's gonna save you some money and it's gonna save you some headaches. So we're going to give Myztico a lot of work. So very good. Excellent. Thank you again. I hope you have a good rest of your day. I will of course be in touch with you for our continuous shipping needs. And I want to say thank you all to all our friends who listen. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you at the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.